Hey, everybody. I am Dr. Andy Roark, and this is the Uncharted Podcast. Guys, I got a special bonus episode for you today. I got a really good one if you're trying to get more efficient with your appointments. If you are dealing with doctors who won't go home because they're filling out their medical records all night, if you are a doctor who's just bogged down, you're tired of administrative stuff, you've got more cases than you can see, and you just wish that you could be faster without compromising patient quality. Guys, if you're feeling any of those things, this is the episode for you. I am talking to Dr. Kerri Anderson. She is the owner of Fillmore Animal Hospital in Fillmore, California. She is a champion and advocate for AI scribes. She has an AI scribe. She uses ScribbleVet. She talks about how she uses it in her practice, how she started using it a year ago, how it allowed her to decrease her appointment times from 30 minutes down to 22 minutes. It's been a massive reduction in the amount of paperwork that she has to do. She talks about how she lost a vet and was able to keep her productivity where it had been and go home on time. I dig deep into her workflow. I'm like, how do you use this? What do the techs do? Who's holding this thing? Where does it go? How long are you in the room for? What do you ask when you're in the room? How do you get permission and consent for this? Are the clients weird about it? What about the other doctors who come? If you have locum doctors, are they on board with using this? We deal with all of those things, dive into all of it. She's honest. She's great. It's really good feedback if you were thinking about starting to use AI scribes. Man, I'm super fired up about this, guys. I think that the lives of techs and vets can be improved with using products like this. I really do. Nobody got into vet school. Nobody went to tech school because they wanted to fill out paperwork, because they wanted to make medical records. To me, this is really leveraging AI for something that's going to make our life as vet professionals better. And so I am here for it. And so it's just good to talk to somebody who went all in on it a year ago. And she talks about the iterations and what she learned and how she's been putting it to work. So anyway, this makes me really, really fired up. Guys, this episode is brought to you by ScribbleVet. If you want to try ScribbleVet out, I got good news for you. You can head over to scribblevet.com/uncharted and get an extra month for free. So you get a 2-week trial and you get an extra month on top of that just for heading over and using that link. So anyway, again, it's scribblevet.com/uncharted. I'll put a link in the show notes. Go and check them out if you think this might be for you. Gang, let's get into this episode.
And now, the Uncharted Podcast.
And we are back. It's me, Dr. Andy Roark, and my friend, Dr. Kerri Anderson. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic, Dr. Andy Roark. How are you doing?
I am thrilled. I am so looking forward to talking to you. I have heard a lot about you. You and I are just getting to know each other. I met you through my friends at ScribbleVet. And so I was talking to them about using an AI scribe because I have not used one yet in the exam room, and I have been looking really hard at them. The promise of spending less time doing medical records is really exciting to me. And so I've been kicking the tires on a couple different platforms that are out there and stuff. And when I was talking to the team at ScribbleVet, they said, you got to talk to Kerri Anderson. She's got a story about how she started using AI scribes, specifically ScribbleVet, in her practice and the impact they saw. So let me start here. I just want to unpack this from the top. So you are the owner at Fillmore Animal Hospital in Fillmore, California, correct?
Yes, indeed.
Cool. Tell me a little bit about the practice. How many vets do you have? What's the feel like? What kind of animal hospital are you?
So we're about a 1.5 doctor practice. I had a little midlife crisis in 2021, and I bought an animal hospital. And before that, so I started practice I did dairy practice for 10 years, and then I did high volume spay neuter for 10 years. And then so it seems I have a shelf life of about 10 years.
About 10 years, yeah.
So yes, before I have to do something new. So here I am on my 3rd stint in veterinary medicine and the animal hospital. And my 2 past careers with the large animal and with the spay neuter, I had no medical records. So I'd been in practice for 20 something years and I'd never done any medical records. And it was shocking to me and also terrifying because I was like, oh, I've got to have a legally complete medical record. And then to get out of the exam room, I'd be like, oh God, what did I say? Did I say this? Did I not say this? And all that. And it was very stressful. And from the time that I bought the practice until I found ScribbleVet, I tried everything that I could find to make that problem less of a problem.
So tell me about that. So here you are. I love this. You're a food animal vet and then a shelter vet. You're like, my medical records were on 3x5 index cards. Like that's what I imagined.
It was, they were minimal. Yeah.
Minimal. Yeah. And so you're getting into this. And so like, tell me a little bit about your journey there getting started. Like, what did you try? Like, what were the iterations of this? So
Okay.
2021, you're coming out of the pandemic. I'm guessing you're probably pretty busy.
Yeah.
What did that part of the journey look like?
Yeah. Well, so coming out of the pandemic, and then I was new to small animal practice because I hadn't done it. And here I am buying a practice. And
hold
the
on,
practice.
wait, pause. You bought, this is like, you said a 1.5 vet practice. So basically
Yes.
like a 1 vet practice. And you're like, I haven't done this. Let me just buy a practice for
Let me
myself.
try this. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
We'll just see how this goes. Yeah.
I love it.
And I
I
made
love
a
it.
list of things. I had a list of 5 different things because I was ready to try something different. And buying practice was at the bottom of that list. And then 3 weeks later, I was in escrow. So,
Yeah, I'll just put this on at the bottom to be complete.
I don't really want to do that, but here I am.
Okay.
And it came with a veterinarian who said they would stay on 6 months, and she's lovely. Her laugh, it fills the hospital. I love her. And she was 2 days a week. And then I had lunch with one of my colleagues who is a seasoned professional, and told him that I would really appreciate if he came on, and he came on for a little bit of time too. He's retired, so he came out of retirement to help
That's
me
nice.
because I was afraid of hurting somebody.
That's great. I mean, I love this approach. This is great.
And my practice came with Avamark software, and I felt like I was back in the 90s doing dairy comp in the dairy industry. I was like, what is this? And there has to be something better. And so that was my first thing with the records, was to get rid of that. I was like, well, there's got to be a better software solution out here, and that will make this medical record.
Okay.
And so I found a cloud-based software system and went with that. And it did. It was a fair amount of work to set it up. But once I got all of my, pre-formatted text set in where, I could put in a prescription, and it had whatever it needed for the prescription, this prescribing line and things like that. And then my exam templates and, the commonly used things template, got all those set up, and it made it better. But still, in the exam time, capturing what I actually said and what the other people, what the client said to me, it was terrifying to me that I didn't feel like I was doing enough on my records, and it took me a lot of time. And I felt like I was legally exposed, and I felt like my records were incomplete.
Around what time did the idea of an AI scribe come into your mind? Because again, this is, AI is just taken off. It's only been a year or two, since it became mainstream. So so what was that time frame? How did that idea even come to you?
I didn't search for that specifically. Like AI scribe wasn't even a thing at the time whenever I was looking for it. And I hired an extra person to go in the exam rooms with me to write notes. And it was awful because nobody is going to take the notes that you want to take. Like, that's just how that goes. Yeah, and then I tried some of the services that do the transcribing. Also was just not what I was looking for. Like, it just seemed, I wanted it to be done when I was done with the appointment, and I wanted to leave the appointment and have that ready to go. It just didn't work that way. And it was like the learning curve of it was too much. And then after I was doing that, then because I would Google search, try to find different services. Every time that I would get very frustrated with it, then that's when I'd go searching. And it happened to be February of last year that it came up in a Google search for the AI scribes.
Okay.
So,
all right.
And
so
then,
that was it. It comes into your mind. And you're like, were you like, that's it, I'm in? Did you start a search process? Like, how did you go from finding AI scribes on Google to this is what I'm doing in my practice?
Well, I signed up for it at 1:00 in the morning whenever I was Google searching, and I tried some different ones. Yeah, and after the very first time that I did an appointment with one, I was like, I went into the little thing where you can print out the disclosures that you're being recorded, and I taped it up on the wall because I was like, I'm never going to do another appointment without this again, because it's just the power of being able to capture all that, have it organized for you, and then just edit it is huge. Okay.
So I've gotten to play around with ScribbleVet, and it's amazing as far as the ability just to take a conversation. And again, you can imagine when I get in the exam room, I talk about whatever comes to mind, whatever they want to talk about.
Same.
And it's incredible to have this sort of winding, rambling conversation. That is what we have in the exam room.
Yeah.
We talk about their family, then we talk about their pet a little bit, and then we go back to their family, and then we talk about the car that they're rebuilding or whatever. And to get it organized is incredible. So, okay. So talk to me a little bit. What I'm really interested to hear is how your workflow actually looks now, because let's start here with the experience that you had, and then I want to get into the nuts and bolts. How did it go for you when you started using ScribbleVet? Tell me the story of what you've seen in your practice.
Well, I do. And I want to say one thing on what you're just talking about, the conversations. Like I do the same thing. And it actually made being in the exam room fun for me because because I like people most of the time. And the stress of having me trying to inventory the things that I was talking about, it killed it for me. Like I was just like, I gotta get through this and get out of here so I can write all my stuff down. And whenever I had that, I was able to just interact with people and answer the questions and make sure that I had everything. And I didn't have to worry about it. So it made it fun for me again.
Dude, I can totally see that. I find myself, if I'm using a scribe, I put on more of a show for people too. Like, because I have to, I articulate what I'm saying and what I'm doing. And so it's just kind of a natural thing that I'm kind of like forced to do. Yeah. But also the clients really like it. And it leads to good places. Okay. Yeah. So results.
So the results. So after I started using, and you've used the software, so you know how it's very fast. Your soap note almost, within a couple of minutes after you're done with the appointment. And I was able to shorten my appointment times. I did have 30-minute appointments, and then I shortened them down to 22 minutes. So it changed my workflow as far as like the appointment times that I had available. And then, so we started in February, and in probably July, I had a veterinarian, and you're probably not that familiar with the LA area, but we have horrible traffic in LA. And we're actually I'm in a rural area about an hour outside of LA. And I had a lovely lady who I've known for 10 years I goaded her into coming out to our practice because she was in the shelter biz and needed a break from that. And so she was driving from the belly of the beast out to our little town. And she was like, I love coming out here. I just can't do the drive anymore. So I was down a veterinarian. So it was just me, and I had my 1 day a weeker that was in, and my clinic is open 7 days a week. So the only way that I was able to survive this was to have ScribbleVet, because I was essentially working 7 days a week while I was trying to get more veterinarians in.
Wow.
And I was able to I've been generating the same amount of revenue only because I have this, and I leave on time and all of my records are done.
That's incredible. I leave on time and all my records are done. How many appointments do you think you see in a day, Kerri? Just ballpark.
It just depends, because some days I do surgeries and appointments. So I would say probably, I don't know, between 15 and 20.
Okay. So that's a solid case. You went from scheduling 30-minute appointments down to 22-minute appointments?
Yeah.
How did that, so does that just mean that you were doing 8 minutes of records that you're now not doing anymore? Like, how did you come to that number?
Yeah. Well, it's as far as the room availability and the staff availability.
Gotcha.
And just the amount of time that it takes in there.
How did you get started doing this? I mean, you just walked in and just went whole hog right off the bat of this is what I'm doing now?
Yeah, I downloaded it on, we have iPads that the staff were using, and I downloaded the apps onto it, and I told the staff, all right, here's what we're doing. And they were all on board. And all the veterinarians have been on board too. I haven't had anybody who has not wanted to do it.
So you haven't had any vets who have come through who have just been like, that's not really how I do that?
No.
None. All right. Tell me a bit about, this is what I'm really interested in. Tell me about your workflow. So you've got ScribbleVet, you got it set up in your practice. It's on the iPads that the techs have, and then also you have and use as well.
Yeah, everybody just carries them. We call them our friends.
Oh, you carry your friends? You carry your friends around. Okay. Let's take a friend.
Yeah.
How does the appointment go? So the technician goes in and they start recording. They ask permission to record, the visit.
No, it's posted in the exam room, and it's in and when clients sign their new client forms, it says on there that we may be recording. So we don't have to have that conversation with them. It has been disclosed, and it's posted prominently in the exam rooms with a little icon that shows that.
Are any of the clients, are they bothered by this? Have you gotten pushback from any of them?
I have not had anybody say they don't like it.
Well, you're in LA. I expect people had strong feelings about being recorded.
Yeah, no. And the output of it, and that's what I liked about ScribbleVet versus some of the others that I tried. And it's been a year since I've done the others, so I don't know what the competition is like anymore. Sure. But the client-friendly email also has been huge.
Yeah. So you're talking about the email. So when you go in and you do the appointment and the app listens and then it creates your medical records, it also makes an email at the bottom of that says, here's the email you might want to send to the clients. That's what you're talking about, right?
And it's in language that the clients can understand. And we still do give handouts on, whatever we diagnose them with, or, puppies and kittens, things they need to know. We still give separate handouts on that. But as far as like a summary of what we talked about, what our recommendations were, sometimes I would write it down on a scratch piece of paper, or the staff, if it was complicated, when I have them type it in. But until then, it was just kind of a hodgepodge mishmash of whatever we could get to them, because it was just too labor intensive to get any sort of summary to the clients.
Well, I want to break down a case with you. So let's imagine for a second that I'm coming in and I've got a Vizsla and he's got an ear infection. And and I'm coming into your practice. So I come in, I sign the new client paperwork and everything. I've been informed that this technology is going to be used. I'm going to be recorded or whatever. I'm fine with that. And so we go into the exam room. No one has talked to me other than the front desk person who said, welcome, come on in. Go ahead and start to walk me through that appointment and who's carrying the iPads and kind of what gets recorded and when. And help me see how your whole team kind of uses this and how I would move through your practice.
Well, anytime that any person is interacting with client, they have a friend with them. They have the iPad with them. The staff will go in, they'll take the history. And, if it's the Vizsla with the ear infection, they'll prep the client, we're going to recommend an ear cytology. We'll look in the ears. There may or may not be medications prescribed, depending on what we see. And then I'll go in and I'll do the exam and make the recommendations. And it's on during that. And then the staff will be doing their treatments. And if they're doing anything in the room, it'll be on while they're talking to them. We also have them in the back. So if we end up needing to take the animal to the back, we'll record whatever it is that we're doing and record our findings. And sometimes during the appointment, we'll hit the scribble button so that we can generate the report so that we can see what's in it as reference. It's helpful sometimes to see where we're at in the process. At the end of it, we just hit the scribble button again. And then after the appointment, I try to go and edit it, because it's much faster to edit something than it is to generate it yourself or to write it yourself. And that was, I took in my desperation for solving this problem, I took a medical records, a 10-hour CE on how to do medical records, and they pointed that out. And it made sense to me. It's like it does. And, it's easier to edit something than it is to go make it fresh every time. So editing this is very helpful and it takes me, and coming from my high volume spay neuter world, I time a lot of things. So it takes me about 45 seconds to edit most of them. But some of them are longer. Some of them it takes up to 2 minutes, depending on what it is. But I have my flow of what I scan and the things that I trust that are usually complete and the things that I check just because I'm used to the output and I know generally what's in there and what I need to make sure is accurate. And I spend the majority of my time on the client email because it's important to me that the patient care be there. And I feel like that I need to have it legally documented, obviously. And that's what the SOAP note's for. But for me, the patient to get the actual care, the clients need to know what we talked about and what the recommendations were so that they can refer back to it because nobody remembers anything. And if they can have this thing in their hand the same day, then they can refer back to it. And so that's what we do with our workflow because it doesn't integrate with the software because, obviously it's such a new technology. My staff then goes and copy pastes it into the actual record and emails it to them from our software. So it gets documented that they got it.
Yeah. No, that totally makes sense. Okay, cool. Things that you say that I had not considered. The idea of having it generate like just a quick breakdown of the appointment so far had not occurred to me at all. But I mean, when you're doing those cases, especially like, let's say you're taking in something to hospitalize it and you've gone back and forth, and you've done 3 rounds of diagnostics. Man, that's an amazing, that was really useful. Like a lot of times I'm like, did we talk about this? I think we did.
Yeah.
Did we, where are we?
And that's something that I find useful with the client email because there'll be times that I'd be like, oh crap, I forgot to say that. And I put it in the client email and then it gets documented and the clients get it.
Okay. The other things that you said that I hadn't really thought about. So you say, when we're doing a treatment, we have it on, or when we take the pet to the back, we have it on. What does that look like? Are people in your practice just talking to space?
Yeah.
Like all day in the treatment rooms?
Because we'll sit it next to the animal and whenever we're doing it, then we'll just do that. And we still carry out
hit the record button and then just say, I'm cleaning this dog's ears
just talk about it. We'll still do our normal chit chat and then we'll just say whatever it is. So it doesn't change how we operate in the hospital. We still say our stupid jokes and things like that and talk about our weekends. And it picks up just, if we're cleaning the ears, it talks about it properly identifies the which ear and what the findings were. And recommendations, I'll say my recommendations in there as well. And then it generates all of that.
I would like for ScribbleVet to offer a stupid joke recap feature. You know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, I could just get a rundown of all the bad jokes that were told.
Oh God, do you really want to see that?
I do enjoy bad jokes. I'll tell you. So, okay. You didn't have any pushback from the technicians, it sounds like.
No, not at all. No.
Whenever we talk about AI, somebody's always like, well, AI makes mistakes. AI makes mistakes. And you said, that you review your records and you kind of know where to look and things like that. Is that something you've noticed where you go, I mean, obviously, I slur my speech sometimes. I suspect anyone who's listening and be like, I don't exactly know what Andy said at that point. Do you catch those kinds of things? Is that a problem? Are there systems? It sounds like you've gotten so used to the output that you can kind of do
it
that
doesn't
review
take
that
long.
Quickly?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it really doesn't take long. And it's not, and I did have one doctor who, and you could hear them grumbling about the accuracy, but it was more one of those things of, it didn't write it the way that they wanted it written. It wasn't necessarily that it was inaccurate. It just didn't say it the way they wanted to say it. And they still edited it. And it was still faster and they were still more complete. But, that's really the only one that I've had that they were like,
one of the questions that I have sort of had with any sort of a scribe is that, vet medicine has its own language and its own vocabulary and things like that. And so I always worry that I'm going to, talk about leptospirosis and it's going to come out as, lichiortodosis or, something that's going to make me look dumb or feel dumb.
Yeah.
Or, in more honesty, what if I say atropine and it records some other drug or, something that's not that. And now I've got this medical record that said I administered a topamine. And I'm like, I don't even know that's a thing. Is that a thing? So talk to me a bit about accuracy.
Well, I have found it to be very accurate. I would say that it's more accurate than when I do my own records, just because everything's in there. And the thing, whenever you're saying that I'm inventorying the things that have happened to me over the last year that I've been using this, it came up with one test that didn't exist one time. Okay. And this is in a whole year. And I was like, that's not a thing. And maybe once a week, it might come up with something that's a little weird, but that's why you edit it. Like that's what that's there for. But it's not very often. It's not never, but it's very rare that it's anything that's wackadoo. And the medical terminology, it captures that. And it actually sometimes will put things in there that I haven't necessarily worded it that way. I don't know how to say it, but it makes it more accurate than what I would do if I wrote it. Also, my experience with the customer service from the company has been exceptional. Anytime that I've had any issues with, something's not generating what I'd like, I can send them a message and they fix it.
So, Kerri, you mentioned completeness and sort of liability, things like that. Talk to me a little bit. Talk to me a little bit about the level of completeness, because I always worry. I go in the exam room and I sort of talk through what I'm doing and things like that. Do you feel like you're getting more robust records than you did before? I always wonder, do I say enough? Am I complete enough in what I'm saying in the room? I think I am, but I always have that sort of insecurity. The other thing is, there's a lot of doctors who write boatloads of medical records. You know what I mean? Like they'll stay 2 hours after the clinic closes writing up their records. And I'm sure they're going to be like, well, this level of completeness isn't up to where I am. Talk to me a little bit about that. Can you titrate how much detail and not enough detail? Help me understand that. Like, how much sort of liability coverage am I going to get out of records like this?
Well, I feel like it accurately documents whatever it is that you've said. So if you didn't say it, it's not going to be in there. Right. And it has a template that has your physical exam template in there, and everybody can put their own in there. And then it edits that based on what you call out in the exam. But I'd say the only time that I would imagine that it would be less robust than what somebody would do is if they don't vocalize what it is that they're seeing. Yeah. And then it wouldn't. And you can always do that afterwards. Like I've done that before. If there's something that I'm like, this client's going to be offended if I say this, then I don't say it. And I just say it afterwards.
Yeah, you could have a much more robust breakdown of the pet's, body condition score maybe outside the room than inside the room. Okay. Are there other features that you really like?
The dental charts are very helpful. That has been a newer feature. I don't remember how long. I would say I think that it's been out for several months. And the last couple of months, we've really started using them. And in California, technicians, RBTs, can do extractions. So I don't do all of the extractions. And it's nice because then whenever I'm calling the client, talking to them, summarizing the dentistry, if I didn't do the extraction myself, I have documentation and I can talk to the client about what all happened. And then they get a physical representation of the dog's mouth or the cat's mouth of what's still there, what was taken out, what was already gone. And it also puts on what was wrong with the tooth for why it came out.
So for each tooth, like they get a graphic of the mouth and then this tooth came out for this reason?
Yeah, it's a full page, it's in color, it's nice, and it makes it very obvious what all took place for the client.
Yeah. You mentioned early on, we were talking about, setting up your PIM system and leaning into templates and things like that. Did all that stuff kind of go out the window when you started using this, or were you able to set up templates sort of inside of ScribbleVet, or how does that work?
Well, I don't hardly use any of my templates anymore. I still do for my prescriptions, and I do have some of my speeches that are canned that I feel like are more complete. And that is on me. Like, I don't know, probably you have the same thing. Like the 5th time in a day that I've given my arthritis speech, it's not as complete as the first time as I gave it. So, and that's what my plan is to do with my free time now that I have Scribble, is make an edutainment system for my clients so that they can have that spiel without me giving it.
That's great. I think that's fantastic. I love that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think every vet should have a YouTube channel. I know vets hate this, but it's just of like the speeches that you give again and again.
Yeah.
Like if you haven't recorded, you can stick a link in your discharge and be like, here I am. Like, if you want to see this again, here it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I feel like then it's more complete, and it's and I've done a couple of them and done some tests with some clients that I'm like friends with outside of it. Like, what do you think about this? And they're like, oh, this is much better, because then they can refer back to it. And I've made an outline and made sure that I've taken care, that I've had everything in there. So it's, but it's on the to-do list.
Well, yeah, I think, the work is never done. I think we're always working, trying to figure out how to provide a better experience for our patients. So you've been at this since February of 2024. Talk to me about sort of how AI has progressed and how sort of your experience with ScribbleVet has progressed. Do you feel like this is a tool that continues to improve? I mean, is it markedly different now than it was when you started?
It is. It's got the same basic structure, because that's, we all need soap notes, and then it's got the email. But the accuracy, the completeness, it changes continuously. And that's the thing, is like it's the same basic thing, but it's completely different on the output. And I would say it changes every couple of weeks for the better.
For the better? Every couple of weeks? That's pretty great.
Yeah, it is truly remarkable. Yeah. And before, it was still miles above what, when the first time I did it, February 2024, I was like, I will never do this ever again without this. And it's only gotten better from there.
If someone came up to you and they were like, all right, Kerri, in one sentence, why do you use an AI scribe? What would be your big point that you would make to them?
My patient care and quality of life is better.
Right. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you taking time to talk with me about this. It's something I'm really interested and excited about. I see so much possibility here. I think veterinarians and technicians will both lead happier lives if they're not doing piles of paperwork and administrative crap. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you. And that's what I got for you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks to Dr. Kerri Anderson for being here and talking to us. Thank you so much to ScribbleVet for making this episode possible. Guys, since we recorded this episode, ScribbleVet's rolled out some new features. They have a medical record summary feature now that takes pages of medical records, if you're getting them on referral, and condensing it down to something that you can look at quickly and start to take a case in. So medical record summaries for people getting referrals is pretty incredible. Also, they've got a Google Chrome extension that makes transferring information from the ScribbleVet portal into your PIM system super, super easy. So anyway, they continue to innovate and roll out new things. Guys, I hope that this has made you think, maybe I could enjoy my day more. Maybe I could be more efficient. Maybe I could get out of here on time. Like I really love episodes like this, because I know a lot of us are burning the candle at both ends, and I want vet professionals to have a better life. And I think that this, more than any other thing I've seen with AI, I think that AI scribes to help us get through rooms and do a better job and to be fully present with the pet owners, I think that that is the most important thing that I have seen from AI so far for us in our profession. So anyway, guys, think about it. Take care. I'll talk to you later on.